I am planning to ghost my boyfriend of 3 years. Is there a better way to break up with him? I will try to keep this as short as possible because I feel a lot of what's going through my brain is nonsense rambling. But my boyfriend and I met at work nearly 4 years ago. We hit it off right away and formed a really close friendship. We didn't get together until a year later after we went through our own respective breakups. I was so happy after we got together. I felt like I had met my soulmate. He was almost everything I wanted in a man. I started to rethink that in the last month or so. For some context, my boyfriend had kept in contact with his ex even after I made it clear I was uncomfortable with it. After a while, I stopped bringing it up because I knew what the answer would be. A terror conversation with my sister, I brought it up one more time about 2 months ago. He told me that he had already blocked her. I had never felt more happy and felt a positive shift in our relationship. Too bad it was a lie. About a month or so ago, I came home with this gut feeling that something was off with him. So for the first time in my life, I looked through a partner's phone. The messages were innocent enough but spanned back far enough to tell me he lied about ever blocking her. Not only did he lie about not being in contact, he'd blown off a date night with me to go hang out with her. When I confronted him, he broke down and said that he had only gone to her because he was feeling upset about his family situation. He claims the only reason he didn't come to me was because he thought I couldn't handle the stress given my mental illness. At the time, I wanted to work it out and forgave him under the condition that he blocked her and came to me about his issues. He got better about telling me things, and as far as I knew, he had her blocked. Well, the other night he said he was going out with some friends and would be home late. All of this was fine and normal until I noticed that he had turned off his location and was ignoring my calls. He says that he left his phone in his car and turned off his location by accident. But given that I have more than 2 brain cells, I know he's lying. He got a brand new phone, and it has been glued to his hand since he got it, so him leaving it in his car seems so unlikely to me. These 2 events aren't the reason for me wanting to leave, but rather the catalyst. After both of these things happened, I started looking a little too closely and have noticed some concerning behaviors. The first being I don't think he actually likes me as a person. He talks about how much he loves me, but a lot of his compliments are rooted in my appearance. He says he thinks I'm smart, but whenever I say something that he doesn't really agree with, I'm stupid for thinking that. He's constantly telling me how much the gifts he gets me are despite me asking him not to because it makes me feel bad for not being able to afford the same caliber of gift for him. Our sense of humor is rooted in being slightly mean to each other. With that sense of humor, we're bound to hit a small nerve every now and then. When I hit a nerve, he tells me, and I stop bringing it up. But when I let him know that he made fun of a big insecurity, he continues to make the same jokes. To make matters worse, the jokes aren't even that funny. Those are small behaviors I feel can go overlooked, but the following are more serious and have been a big fight between my boyfriend and I. The first one being his anger. No matter the situation, if there is any kind of inconvenience, he defaults to anger. Small disagreements escalate to full-blown fights, because he gets angry and doesn't let me share my thoughts on the situation. And big fights turn scary. We have only ever gotten into 2 or 3 really big fights, but they have all left me feeling scared of him for a few hours following. Now on the most serious, in my opinion, his treatment of our animals. He came into the relationship with a dog, and we just got a new puppy a few months ago. When the dogs chew on something or run up the street after a squirrel or whatever, he hits them. I'm not talking about a pop on the nose. I mean, our puppy will scream his head off because my boyfriend is so incredibly mean to him. In an attempt to keep the violence to a minimum, I took over their punishments. It's worked for the most part, but there are moments where he gets to them first, and I always feel so guilty. I also brought a cat into this relationship, and even though he hasn't laid a finger on the cat, he makes way too many jokes about hurting him. I know I want to leave, but I'm torn between talking to my boyfriend about it or just packing up and leaving one day while he's at work. Any advice? Super teeny tiny update that doesn't require a brand new post quite yet. I'm speaking with my supervisor tomorrow to get a realistic timeline of when I can leave. I know I can technically leave whenever, but I really love my job and want to make sure that the person taking over my position is completely set. After that has been settled, I just need to wait until move-out day. I also wanted to clear up some of the comments saying that I am controlling for having his location. We have had each other's location for almost as long as we have been living together. It's always been for safety purposes. I don't sit on my phone all night watching where his pin is moving across the map. When either of us go out, we send each other like some kind of text to let the other know that they're okay. I sent a few texts while I was stuck in traffic and just kind of complaining to him, and then a few hours later I sent him a text just checking in and looking for that like quick thumbs up to let me know that he was alive. I didn't get any response. I got worried because that is not a common behavior for him, so I looked at his location to make sure that he wasn't in a ditch somewhere. Keeping with the same theme of me being controlling, I didn't like that he was talking to his ex and had asked him to block her a few times. I would not give a shit if they were friends if either of them were being respectful to our relationship. Before I resorted to blocking, I had asked him to set up some ground rules and boundaries with her about what their friendship would look like given their past. He did not do this, and she was openly flirting with him and doing things to get him to notice her. She also likes to call back to back to back, like close to 15 calls within 2 minutes, when she knows we're together. So given that neither one of them respected our relationship when they started their friendship, I feel completely justified asking him to block her. If you think that makes me controlling or some heinous monster, I just don't care. Update. It's been a few weeks since my initial post, but for those of you who didn't get the chance or just don't care enough to go read my desperate ramble, here's a summary. My boyfriend of almost 3 years has a history of just being extremely angry and blowing minor disagreements out of proportion. He's made jokes about ending mine and my pets' lives and mistreating them in such a severe way. I didn't know how to leave him. I was scared and part of me wanted to hold out until he became the sweet man I fell in love with again. After finding out he had been lying to me about being in contact/meeting up with his ex, I realized that he is never going to change and started to plan my escape. This update is not very interesting, but a lot of people wanted to know. At the end of my last post, I had settled on leaving with my pets and was just waiting on move-out day. Move-out day came quicker than expected. Nothing escalated to dangerous degree, but his behavior changed a lot. Suddenly, he was being so incredibly sweet and was talking a lot about commitment. During our last conversation, he was ready to go down to the courthouse and get married right that second. I'm not sure if this is what love bombing is, or if it was just him being desperate because he sensed I was pulling away. After that conversation, I knew if I stayed, nothing good would come out of it. So, I called my family to come help me move out after he left for work. I was able to get out safely with my cat and puppy. I wound up sending a message kind of explaining why I left and asking him to never contact me again before blocking him on everything. So far, he's only tried to call me from a different number once. If he continues to reach out, I plan to talk to local law enforcement to see if a restraining order is possible. I'm not a fan of how everything ended, but I am glad to be out of that situation and somewhere safe where I can learn who I am outside of him.